Hello everyone, welcome to the Sam Fury Show. In this episode, Sam from samfury.com and Aventuras from sfnonfictionbooks.com discuss the book 0 to 1, written by Peter Thiel.
Okay, so are you ready to dive deep into this book? 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
Absolutely, let's do it.
This book is intense.
Yeah,
It's like a crash course in building the future.
I love that.
Not just, like starting a bakery or something.
Right.
We're talking about unearthing these groundbreaking ideas that could change everything.
Totally. And Thiel doesn't mess around.
No, he does not.
He throws out these seriously contrarian perspectives that make you rethink everything you thought you knew about business.
He's all about challenging the status quo.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things is his whole take on monopolies.
Yeah, he's not afraid of that word.
Not at all.
No.
In fact, he thinks they're essential for real progress.
It's like he's saying, forget competing in a crowded market, aim to dominate it.
Exactly. He wants you to find your own space. Create something 10 times better than anything else out there and become the go-to in your industry.
Which kind of makes sense when you think about companies like Google or Amazon.
Right. They didn't get to where they are by being just a little bit better than the competition.
They completely changed the game.
And that's what Thiel is advocating for. He wants entrepreneurs to be bold, to think big, and to aim for those 0 to 1 moments.
Those moments where you go from nothing to something truly groundbreaking.
Exactly. It's about creating something entirely new, not just copying what everyone else is doing.
Which brings us to his other big idea. Globalization versus technological innovation.
Right. He's basically drawing a line in the sand saying that real progress doesn't come from just copying existing ideas and spreading them around.
It's about inventing something completely new, something that pushes the boundaries of what's possible.
Think of it like this. Globalization is like opening another hamburger joint.
And technological innovation is like inventing a teleportation device.
Exactly. One is about incremental improvement. The other is about creating something truly transformative.
And in a world that's constantly trying to tell us to think bigger, be bolder, Thiel actually backs it up with, this is why, and this is how.
And that's what makes his work so compelling. He's not just offering vague platitudes. He's providing a framework for thinking about innovation in a completely different way.
So if you're tired of the same old business advice, if you're ready to challenge your assumptions and really push the boundaries of what's possible,
Then you need to dive into 0 to 1.
Okay, so we've talked about monopolies, and we've talked about this clash between globalization and truly building something new.
The 0 to 1 moments.
But this is where it gets really interesting and, honestly, a little controversial.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Thiel argues that successful companies, the really big game changers, they don't just compete.
Yeah.
They aim to become monopolies.
He really doesn't shy away from that word, does he?
Nope. It's like he's saying, forget playing by the rules, rewrite them, create something so valuable, so dominant, that you become the only real player in the game.
It's a radical concept.
Totally. But he makes a compelling case for it.
So why does he believe this?
Because he thinks that when you create something truly unique, something 10 times better than anything else out there,
You naturally capture a dominant market share.
it's not about squashing competition for the sake of it.
It's about creating so much value that you become the obvious choice.
And that dominance, as Thiel sees it, it's not a bad thing.
It allows you to focus on long-term innovation.
You're not constantly looking over your shoulder, worried about the competition.
You're free to invest in research and development to push the boundaries even further.
Like Google, they didn't just build a slightly better search engine, did they?
No, they revolutionized how we access information.
And that's what gave them the freedom to create things like self-driving cars and AI that can beat humans at Go.
They had the resources and the breathing room to think big because they weren't constantly fighting for survival.
And that's the power of what Thiel calls 0 to 1 thinking.
It's about creating the future, not just competing in it.
Which brings us to another one of Thiel's ideas that really makes you think.
Okay, hit me.
The last mover advantage.
The last mover. Isn't that the opposite of what everyone says you're supposed to do?
Exactly. We're always told to be first to market, to disrupt, to be the innovator.
Right, get out there first.
But Thiel flips that on its head.
How so?
He's basically saying, let your competitors be the guinea pigs.
What does he mean?
Let them figure out the market, make the mistakes, and then you swoop in with a better product and a winning strategy.
So you can learn from their mistakes.
Exactly. You can see what worked, what didn't work, and you can refine your approach accordingly.
So it's about being strategic, not just fast.
Precisely. It's about playing the long game, not just chasing the latest trend.
Do you have any examples of companies that have done this successfully?
Think of Amazon.
Amazon. They're one of the first online retailers, weren't they?
They weren't the first, but they focused on dominating their niche.
Books. Okay.
They built a loyal customer base, they invested in their infrastructure,
They played the long game.
and it paid off big time.
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
Thiel challenges a lot of conventional wisdom.
But that's what makes him so insightful.
Yeah.
He forces you to question your assumptions.
Okay, so let's say you've built this amazing product, you've got customers lining up, you're well on your way to dominating your market.
Things are looking good.
Surely some of that has to be luck, right?
Well, there's always an element of luck in any success story.
Not according to Thiel.
You're kidding? Right. He thinks you can control everything.
He's all about intentionality, meaning success is the result of deliberate planning and execution.
So you're not just hoping for the best.
No, you're making strategic decisions to shape your own destiny.
That's a lot of pressure.
It can be, but it's also incredibly empowering
How so?
because it means you have more control than you might realize.
You're not just a leaf blowing in the wind.
Exactly. You're the architect of your own success.
I like that.
So we've talked about building the future,
Right.
we've talked about embracing monopolies,
There.
and we've talked about playing the long game.
Check, check.
But where do these game-changing ideas come from in the first place?
That is the million-dollar question.
Thiel seems to think there are still secrets out there.
Secrets. Like what?
Hidden knowledge, waiting to be discovered.
You're making this sound like a treasure hunt.
In a way, it is. He encourages us to explore uncharted territories.
To be open to unconventional sources of inspiration.
He believes there are still fundamental truths about the world that are just waiting to be unearthed.
That's an exciting thought.
It is.
Yeah.
But unearthing those secrets, building something truly innovative,
It's not a solo mission, is it?
that's a great point. You need the right people by your side.
You need your crew, right?
Mhm.
You can't build an empire all by yourself.
He's not talking about just any team, though.
Right, he takes it up a notch.
He uses this phrase, building a mafia.
Now, hold on a second. I don't think he's suggesting we,
Yeah, I know.
start taking out the competition.
Exactly. Put on our pinstripe suits.
Right. It's not about that.
It's a metaphor, right?
It's a metaphor for the kind of intense loyalty, that shared sense of purpose you need in a startup.
Everyone on the team totally aligned.
Everyone's rowing in the same direction,
Yeah.
and they're not going to jump ship at the first sign of a storm.
They're in it to win it.
Exactly. It's that ride-or-die mentality that can make or break a company in those early stages.
Okay, so you've got your mafia.
Our tribe, our crew, yeah.
You're ready to unleash this amazing idea on the world, and this is where Thiel is so interesting, you can't forget about sales.
Oh, he's big on sales.
Huge. It's not enough to have an amazing product.
You got to tell people about it.
You got to connect with people, show them why they need it in their lives.
It's marketing 101, but you'd be surprised how many brilliant minds forget about that part.
It's like that old saying, you can lead a horse to water.
But you can't make it drink.
Exactly. And that's where the human touch comes in, even in a world that's increasingly dominated by technology.
Thiel gets that. He understands that at the end of the day, it's still about people connecting with people.
And that's another thing that really struck me about the book. He's all about using technology to empower people, not replace them.
Oh, for sure. He doesn't buy into that whole robots are taking over narrative.
Not at all. It's about using technology to enhance our abilities, to make us more efficient, more creative.
Think about it. AI-powered medical diagnoses, robotics assisting in complex surgeries.
It's not about replacing doctors or surgeons.
It's about giving them superpowers.
I love that, giving them superpowers.
Right. It's about augmenting human intelligence and capability, not making us obsolete.
And that's an important distinction because there's so much fear out there about technology.
Absolutely. People are worried about losing their jobs, about becoming irrelevant.
And Thiel is saying, hold on, it doesn't have to be that way.
We can use technology to create a better future, a more equitable future.
But, and this is the reality check,
There's always a reality check.
it's not always smooth sailing, is it?
Definitely not. Building a company, building the future, it's messy, it's unpredictable.
And Thiel uses the example of the clean tech industry.
Right. There were a lot of high hopes for clean tech.
So much potential.
But a lot of startups stumbled.
What happened?
I think a lot of them made the mistake of focusing too much on the tech, and not enough on the business.
They had the passion, the vision,
They wanted to save the world.
but they overlooked some of the fundamentals of running a successful company.
Things like market realities, having a solid financial plan, knowing how to actually make money.
So even with a world-changing idea, you can't just assume people will hand you their wallets.
Sadly not. You need a plan.
You need to understand your market, your competition, and how you're going to generate revenue.
It's great to have a heart, but you need a head for business too.
And that brings us to one of the most thought-provoking concepts in the book,
Okay, let's hear it.
the founder's paradox.
The founder's paradox. What is that?
Thiel says that the very traits that make someone a visionary leader, the ones who are driven, the ones who challenge the status quo.
The rule breakers.
Exactly. Those traits can also be their downfall.
It's like that old saying, you have to be a little bit crazy to change the world.
But maybe there's a fine line between crazy enough and too crazy.
It's all about balance, right? You need that unwavering belief in your vision.
But you also need someone to give you a reality check every now and then.
Exactly. Someone to say, okay, I see where you're going with this, but how are we actually going to get there?
You need that blend of big picture thinking and practical execution.
And that's where a great team comes in. They can help you stay grounded.
Make sure you're not heading for a brick wall at 100 miles an hour.
It's like having a co-pilot who can navigate while you focus on flying the plane.
I love that analogy. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
Monopolies to mafias, secrets to the founder's paradox.
That's a lot to process.
It's incredible how much Thiel packs into this book.
He's not afraid to challenge conventional thinking, that's for sure.
And you know what? That's what makes 0 to 1 such a compelling read.
It makes you think differently. It makes
Yeah.
you question everything.
As we wrap up our deep dive into 0 to 1, I have one final question for you.
Shoot.
What's the one big takeaway? The one thing you hope our listeners will remember long after this episode is over?
That's easy. In a world that's obsessed with incrementalism.
With making things just a little bit better.
Exactly. How can you apply Thiel's 0 to 1 thinking to create something truly unique and valuable? Something that shifts the paradigm, that leaves a real mark on the world?
That's a question we should all be asking ourselves.
It's not easy, but that's the challenge, isn't it? To strive for something more, something bigger than ourselves.
To create the future, not just observe it.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe one of our listeners will be the next Peter Thiel, the one who creates the next groundbreaking company, the next world-changing idea.
That's what I'm hoping for. So if you're ready to challenge the status quo, if you're ready to think big and build the future,
Dive into 0 to 1. You won't regret it.
That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Peter Thiel's 0 to 1. We'll catch you next time for another adventure in knowledge.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Sam Fury Show. If you found this episode useful, let us know with a like, follow and share. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to visit samfury.com and join the free newsletter. As a subscriber, you'll receive access to all the original book summaries, which you can download as PDFs. No more than one email a week containing a roundup of the latest posts and exclusive content, which is only for the mailing list. It's completely free to join at samfury.com.